Right. Words like employee, payee, and detainee support the generalization, crudely stated, that words with the ending E designate the person affected in the specified way by an action performed by someone else. All right. So if you're an employee, a payee, or a detainee, we're just saying like you are affected, like you are the person being affected by the other person.
Mm.
The word absentee seems to be a direct counterexample. It ends in E, yet if it makes sense here to speak of an action at all, that of absenting oneself, perhaps the word can refer to the person who actually performs the action. So the action of absenteeing. Clearly, however, putting forward the following resolves the impasse. If a word with the ending E refers to one party in a two-party transaction, it refers to the party at which the other party's action is directed.
Wow.
So what is our conclusion?
I have no idea. I see the word clearly.
Like that's a good start.
You're like, okay, cool. I'm not seeing like, a bunch of ifs there. Clearly putting forward the following resolves the impasse.
No, I think that's our conclusion too. Like putting forward the following.
Yeah.
Like, right. We're saying like, hey, well, technically, I think our conclusion is putting forward the following resolves the impasse. Like, I think you could stop there, but what is the impasse?
Yeah.
Be the fall. Yeah. All right. So the argument does which of the following detailing with the counterexample it offers. So how do we get to this conclusion?
Okay. So when they say the counterexample, they're saying the word absentee. Like absentee is his direct, counterexample.
But yeah, so how do we get to like the fact that absentee? Yeah.
We're going from like a generalization of words ending with the double E and what they designate that person as being affected in the specified way by someone else performing an action, but then absentee does the direct opposite.
Yep.
And then that shows that if a word ending with the double E refers to a party in one party in a two-party transaction, it refers to the way which the party's action is direct. See, this is like the it refers and then ending to directed. That's like confusing me. I have no idea what that means.
From directed. Oh, okay. So you were really close. So essentially it says it gives us this generalization and shows how it works, but then it gives us absentee where it doesn't work. So then we come up with a new, more refined explanation for how E works, right?
Yeah.
That would be my prediction here. Do you see kind of how I may said what you said in a much simpler way?
Yeah. So generalization taking
we go
like
we go with this generalization here and we're like, hey, this is how it can be defined, but then we give an example where it doesn't work. So then we come up with our own more refined way of explaining how it works.
Yep. Got it. Okay.
So what did you narrow, which did you narrow it down to here?
Why I did this, I don't know, but I put C and A as like I would hold them until the end, and I got rid of B, D, and E.
Okay, so A says provides additional support for the original generalization. Right? Do we offer support for the original generalization?
No, we're not.
We completely go against it. Yeah. You're probably overwhelmed with this question.
I was like, brain freeze.
And look at how opposite your other optional answer was. Concedes that the proposed counterexample is an exception to the generalizations, but maintains the generalizations on the ground that all generalizations have exceptions. Do we ever say that all generalizations have exceptions?
I literally don't. And the thing is too, Nicole, I wrote them down. I was like, all generalizations, ? Like additional. I wrote additional support, no misanalysis. I like write these things and I'm like, they don't make sense. So why am I picking them? I don't know.
I think that one of the big things in my studying, which I got better at, was whenever you get comfortable, like we were like, I know these other ones are wrong. I don't know why this other one could possibly be right, but I'm going to go with it because I know I'm going to trust myself that these ones are wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead and start with B then.
Okay. Dismisses the counterexample.
You know what? Actually, I wonder if you looked at this through the right conclusion too. Do you think?
Honestly, I just was like flag, and again, the
I could
only
see that. Now reading, just getting ready to read B, I bet some people don't understand that you're looking at it through the eyes of absentee.
yeah, I didn't. I was just like, oh, okay.
No,
Clearly,
that makes more sense. I don't think your answers, because your answers aren't as ridiculous if you don't look through it as the lines. If you're not,
yeah, I think I completely missed the absentee thing. Like I was like,
that
what?
makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so then go with B.
B says dismisses the counterexample on the grounds that its force compared to the weight of the supporting evidence is insignificant. Yeah, no. I was like, I wrote down force question mark insignificant question mark. I was like, we can't jump to that conclusion.
But also, do we dismiss the counterexample?
No.
No, we're trying to prove the counter.
Like, yeah, we're proving it.
We're on team counterexample. All right, go to D.
D says narrows the scope of the generalization at issue in such a way that the, I don't even know that word is, counterexample is no longer relevant. Putative?
It's no longer
relevant.
the putative counterexample. Yeah, the putative counter. Okay, so do we narrow the scope of the generalization at issue in a way that the putative counterexample is no longer relevant? Let's skip it for now and go on to E.
Yeah. Shows how replacing the notion of being affected in a specified way by an action with that of having someone's action directed at oneself reveals the counterexample to be spurious. Yeah, I didn't even try to understand what this was trying to break down to.
Spurious means like illegitimate or like.
That's what I thought. I thought like not legit.
Yes. At least from my like what is that book you have to read? Not Hamilton. Hamlet, not Hamlet. Oh, Romeo and Juliet, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're saying here shows how replacing the notion of being affected in the specified way by an action with that of having someone's action directed at oneself reveals the counterexample to be wrong. Like, do we go in and do we use this to show how our counterexample is wrong?
No, we're using it to support the conclusion.
Well, we use this to explain how absentee can still work into some type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So D says narrows the scope of the generalization at issue in such a way that the putative counterexample is no longer relevant. So do we make the generalization more specific so the absentee now works? Like it's no longer a problem?
Is that what that's saying?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay, so when I first read this, I was like, counterexample is no longer relevant. I was like, are they saying like the counterexample, like it doesn't make sense? Like we're just not
saying the issue, like because it says it seems to be a direct counterexample to this roll up here. But whenever we bring in this new generalization, absentee is no longer an oddball out, right?
Yeah, it's like just part of it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, now it works.
Oh, that makes sense now. When I first read this, I was like, why are we getting rid of it? So that's why I literally crossed it out immediately.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And it truly makes you have to understand what's going on in this argument to get there.
Yeah.